Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a gripping Kahani ka Vishleshan, a story analysis that really peers into the darkest corners of human nature. Before we get into it, I want you to think about greed for a second. Actually, think of greed like sugar. Yeah, it's a kind of strange comparison, I know, but just stay with me. In moderation, sugar is sweet, it's enjoyable, maybe even a little necessary, right? But if you consume it in excess, it becomes this fatal poison that literally rots you from the inside out. Well, let's dive into this wild case from 1990, where an absolutely insatiable appetite for wealth turned a quiet, peaceful retreat into an absolute nightmare.
Okay, so picture this. It's the 1990s. We find ourselves at this incredibly remote, isolated farmhouse. It's just sitting out there, tucked away quietly on the stretch between Sonipat and Panipat and Haryana. The air is thick, the nights out there are pitch black, and the nearest neighbor, miles away. Honestly, it is the textbook perfect setting for a classic horror story. But the question we really need to ask ourselves here is, what happens when the real monsters aren't actually ghosts hiding in the shadows, but the people you trust the most?
To really understand how this chilling night unfolded, we need to meet the key players. First up, we have Raghav Malik. Now, Raghav is this highly successful, incredibly wealthy businessman based in Delhi. We're talking multi-crore properties. But he has a glaring vulnerability. He suffers from a really severe heart condition, and he's actually barely survived a major heart attack in the past. Next, we have his wife, Mohini, who lives with him in the city. And finally, there is Raju. Raju is the caretaker of this Haryana farmhouse. He's a guy who's practically grown up on the property. He takes care of literally every single detail while Raghav just drops in for his occasional weekend getaways. 10. Just think about that number for a second. For 10 long years, Raju has been the fiercely loyal, blindly trusted caretaker of this farmhouse. From the time he was just 20 years old to his current age of 30, he has been Raghav's absolute most reliable asset on the property. I mean, no complaints, no missing money, absolutely zero issues. Raghav trusted Raju with his life. But then, one weekend, this strange letter arrives from the electricity board. It's announcing a total power shutdown from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., and, well, that's exactly when things start to seriously unravel. So, Raju is sent into town to buy some emergency lights for the blackout. But when he gets back, this terrifying descent into the supernatural begins. At 7 p.m., as dusk starts to settle, Raju walks through the front gates and suddenly feels this eerie presence following him. He just knows he isn't alone. Then, by 8:30 p.m., while he's just sitting there eating his dinner, he sees this mysterious figure laughing and peering at him through the window. Completely terrified, he rushes outside. And right at 9 p.m., literally as the scheduled power outage plunges the entire farmhouse into total darkness, Raju clicks on a flashlight, only to illuminate a horrifying, headless woman standing right beside him. Panicking, as anyone would, Raju frantically calls Raghav, who actually happens to be way off in Mumbai. Raghav immediately senses the sheer terror in his caretaker's voice. So he drops everything. He catches a flight to Delhi and drives straight out to the farmhouse. But when Raghav arrives, that usual warm welcome he's used to, completely missing. There is this unnatural, suffocating silence hanging over the place. There's no music playing at the gate, no Raju there to greet him. Raghav searches the empty fields until he finally finds Raju huddled in the stable, trembling, cowering in a corner, and warning Raghav that a dark entity is standing right behind him. Now, Raghav, being the pragmatic guy he is, just dismisses the ghost stories as exhaustion. He sends Raju off to rest and goes to bed himself, leaving his car keys right there on the nightstand. But at exactly 9 p.m. the next night, the scheduled power cut hits. In the pitch black, Raghav hears glass shatter. Then, he hears this eerie laughter echoing through the halls. He tries to make a run for his car, but suddenly realizes, oh no, he left the keys in his bedroom. Slowly creeping back inside the dark house, he suddenly senses someone breathing heavily right behind him. He turns, sees a dark figure, and his weak heart just gives out. Raghav collapses, fainting right there on the floor. Hours later, as Raghava wakes up paralyzed on the floor, the fog in his mind finally clears. There were no ghosts. The headless witch, the eerie laughter, the shattered glass, that perfectly timed power outage, it wasn't supernatural at all. It was a cold, highly calculated psychological plot. It was designed specifically to trigger a fatal heart attack in a man with a known cardiac condition. Yup, it was an assassination attempt. So here is the absolutely crucial point. It's what Raghav hears as he regains consciousness. It's 2:50 a.m. He's lying there on the floor in the pitch dark, barely breathing. Standing over him is a silhouette, and the person is talking on a phone. The man says, "Madam, I could only make him faint. He didn't get a heart attack. Should I bury him in the fields?" And the name the man on the phone calls out? Mohini Madam. No way, right? Yes, Raghav is literally lying there, listening to Raju, his fiercely loyal caretaker, plotting his murder with none other than his own wife Mohini. So what exactly is the price of betrayal? 5%. That's it. Mohini had manipulated Raju, promising him a mere 5% stake in the farmhouse property once Raghav was dead. 10 years of trust, care, and absolute loyalty completely traded away for a tiny fraction of a single property. It's just a staggering realization of how fragile human bonds can really be when they're tempted by greed. But you have to remember, Raghav is a hardened businessman. He doesn't just roll over. At exactly 3 a.m., the scheduled power outage ends. The lights suddenly flood the house. And in a flash, Raghav jumps up, grabs a knife from the kitchen counter, and presses it right to Raju's throat. Talk about a power dynamic shifting instantly. So, when Mohini calls back to confirm the kill, Raghav actually intercepts the call on speakerphone. With this icy calm, he tells his treacherous wife that he knows absolutely everything, and if she wants her inheritance so badly, well, she should come to the farmhouse and collect it in person. While waiting for Mohini to arrive, Raghav executes this incredibly cold, calculated countermove. He looks down at the trembling Raju, and he doubles Mohini's bribe. He looks Raju right in the eye and promises him 10% of the entire property's value. But of course, there's a condition. When Mohini walks through that door expecting to see a corpse, Raju must turn the blade on her instead. An hour and a half passes in this excruciating, heavy silence. Finally, headlights cut through the dark. Mohini arrives. She walks right through those farmhouse doors, absolutely dripping with arrogance, and she starts mocking Raghav, telling him it's a good thing he finally came to his senses. She's expecting total victory. But Raju, who is standing silently right beside Raghav, doesn't hesitate. Fulfilling the new, deadlier contract, Raju violently plunges the knife directly into Mohini's chest. She collapses to the floor, her fatal plot entirely reversed right back onto her. And guys, here is the ultimate masterstroke of this entire story. As Mohini lies there bleeding out, and Raju stands there trembling, just waiting for his 10% reward, Raghav simply looks down and smiles. He looks at Raju and says, "मैंने एक हफ्ते पहले ही इस farmhouse की deal कर ली है. ये farmhouse मेरा है ही नहीं. I sold this farmhouse a week ago. This property isn't even mine." Unbelievable, right? Raghav had only come to the farmhouse that weekend to pack his belongings. He already had the money from the sale in his bank. Raju had just committed cold-blooded murder for a percentage of absolutely nothing. That realization absolutely ruins Raju. Consumed by the sheer weight of his betrayal and the totally useless murder he just committed, Raju basically loses his mind, ultimately falling victim to his own crushing guilt. When the dust finally settles, the media completely misinterprets the entire crime scene. They just write it off as a scandalous murder-suicide fueled by a jealous secret affair between the wife and the caretaker. Everyone feels so bad for Raghav. And Raghav, well, he simply gets in his car, drives back to Delhi, and walks away completely untouched, keeping that dark truth to himself for years. Which brings us right back to the core lesson of our analysis today. Lalach, greed, an intense and selfish desire for wealth. Remember that metaphor from the beginning? Greed is exactly like sugar. A little bit of ambition, it can be sweet, it can be motivating. But Mohini and Raju, they consumed it in excess. And it became a fatal poison that destroyed both of their lives, all while leaving the actual mastermind completely unscathed. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. You know, it's really easy to trust people in the daylight, right? When the money is flowing and the routine is comfortable. But when this scheduled blackout hits, when the fear actually sets in, and when the lights finally go out, who can you really trust? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.